If you're watching this video, you've probably been thinking about applying for chartered status for some time, and may even have wondered what it will involve and how to get started on your application. The aim of this short video is to provide an overview of the process and help you to plan your application in the most efficient way. This is the first in a series of videos which will guide you through the application process, adding more details as you progress through the programme. Chartered status does not necessarily require you to pass any exams. Instead, chartered status is only awarded through a thorough analysis of your project delivery capabilities and an insight into your broader technical knowledge. What is chartered status? In January 2017, the Association for Project Management was awarded a Royal Charter by the Queen's Privy Council, creating a chartered body for the project delivery profession. This was awarded in recognition of the APM's commitment to the profession and for setting and maintaining professional standards and building communities of practice. This in turn has enabled the APM to create a register of chartered project professionals that recognises the competence and sets the benchmark for project delivery specialists across the industry. The term project professional is used deliberately to show that chartered status is not only available to project managers, but to anyone undertaking a project delivery role in any industry, provided they can demonstrate the required levels of competence and experience. This includes those working in a project office, project team members, project or programme directors, and project sponsors. Why do I need to be chartered? Achieving chartered status is generally seen as the ultimate professional accolade for specialists in any industry. For many professions, this is seen as the benchmark standard that you must achieve before being entrusted with significant accountabilities. For example, a chief accountant would normally hold a chartership from a body such as the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. The same can be said for other professionals such as engineers, surveyors, chemists, legal executives, and psychologists, to name just a few. As a result, the most senior positions in each of these professions would normally require the post holder to have achieved chartered status before they could be appointed. This provides a high degree of credibility and reassurance that the individual has been independently assessed to be competent in their field. Until very recently, the same could not be said for project delivery professionals, and, aside from a credible CV and references, in most cases, passing a knowledge-based exam would be the only validation of ability. This has made the benchmark in our profession unclear, as organisations can set their own standards for competence in project delivery. All of this changed in 2017, and it's now possible to demonstrate professional competence in project delivery by achieving a chartership from the APM. Adding this to your own CV and LinkedIn profile indicates to anyone working with you that you have attained the highest standards in project delivery and sets you apart from the majority of project professionals. Over time, as this professional standard grows in status, we anticipate that most organisations will only entrust the most important project delivery roles to chartered professionals, and this will align project delivery with other senior corporate roles. Over 1,000 project professionals became chartered in the first year of operation, and the uptake is continuing to grow both in the UK and internationally. How do I apply? There are 3 routes available to attain chartership, which enable applicants with different levels of professional achievement to gain recognition in the most efficient way. Route 1 has been designed for applicants who have already demonstrated their technical knowledge through some form of recognised assessment, for example, via the APM's Project Professional Qualification, PPQ. Applicants following this route will submit a full written portfolio of evidence to the APM, and if invited to interview, the questions will focus on their practical project delivery experience. Route 2 has been designed for applicants who have already demonstrated both their professional abilities and their technical knowledge through a recognised assessment, such as the APM Registered Project Professional. Applicants following this route will submit a shortened application that focuses on continuing professional development. Route 3 is the most thorough route to chartership and has been designed for applicants who do not hold any recognised qualifications or accreditations. Applicants following this route will submit a full written portfolio to the APM and, if invited for interview, will be asked questions on both their professional activities and their wider technical knowledge. What do I need to do? Routes 1 and 3. For Routes 1 and 3, applying for chartered status follows a similar application process. Your portfolio will need to demonstrate that you have at least 5 years' experience of working in a project delivery role on a suitably complex project. In addition, you will be required to show your professional capability in relation to a predefined set of competencies with clear assessment criteria. Some competencies are mandatory and there is a wide choice of electives. If your most recent project is more than 5 years old, you will also be required to submit a professionally active statement to show what you've been doing in the meantime and how you've kept your competencies current. The assessment process will assess your abilities in several ways. Firstly, your project examples will be assessed to ensure that they are suitably complex and that your role held sufficient accountabilities. Secondly, that you have demonstrated appropriate competence in exercising these accountabilities. This professional competence will be explored further at interview. For Route 3 applicants only, the interview will also assess your broader technical knowledge to determine whether you are aware of alternative methods, techniques, and approaches that could deliver successful outcomes in different circumstances. In addition, you will be asked questions relating to your approach to ethics and professional conduct. And finally, you will also be required to submit a record of your continuing professional development for the last year to demonstrate your commitment to learning. This must show at least 35 hours of personal development spread across multiple activities and how they relate to the development of your project delivery competencies. Route 2. For Route 2 applications, you would complete a much shorter application form as both your professional competence and your technical knowledge have been already assessed to meet the required standard. You will be required simply to submit records of your continuing professional development for the last year to demonstrate your commitment to ongoing learning. For all routes, you will also need to provide contact details for 2 people who can propose you as a chartered project professional and can verify your evidence of competence. Where necessary, you should also provide any certificates that demonstrate your prior achievements and qualification. Writing your project overviews. The first step in building your portfolio is to choose the projects that you wish to base your evidence on. You can include up to 4 projects in your portfolio and write a summary of up to 500 words for each. As you are required to link your statements of competence to an individual project, you will need to ensure that you can find good examples for each competence from one of the projects you have included. If all of your evidence was gained when working on one project, then you can choose only to include this single project in your portfolio. Generally, more than one project is needed to demonstrate the span of competence, and applicants will typically include 2, 3, or 4 project examples. Each project must be considered complex to meet the necessary criteria and also In this section, you will need to demonstrate what you personally achieved in your role within this project. Demonstrating project complexity. In order to demonstrate how complex each project is, you have to show 4 main characteristics. Firstly, that there was a lack of clarity or some uncertainty regarding the objectives of the project. This may include differences of opinion, ambiguity, and general uncertainty about the course of action or the context. Secondly, the project must have been subject to a high level of risk or unpredictability, perhaps with multiple assumptions or factors that were outside of our control. Thirdly, the project must have a complex delivery structure. For example, it may have comprised of multiple work streams or, in the case of a program, multiple projects. Perhaps it involved multiple teams in different locations or a complex supply chain arrangement with multiple suppliers. Finally, the project must have a diverse group of stakeholders who may even have conflicting agendas and interests. Structuring your project overviews. We recommend that you structure your project examples in 3 parts. A summary explanation of what the project was set up to do in clear, simple English, avoiding jargon and overly technical language. A breakdown of how the complexity factors applied to this project in sequence, using bullet points and keywords to make it clear to the assessor what you are telling them. And finally, explain your role as a statement of your achievements rather than a list of responsibilities, making extensive use of the word I. For example, I delivered, I created, I led, I produced, I reported, and so on. We will give you further guidance on how to draft your project examples in a later video. Demonstrating your competence. Next, you have to provide a detailed statement for each of 10 mandatory competencies and your 2 chosen elective competencies. Within the 10 mandatory competencies, you can choose from 1 of 2 financial competencies, either budgeting and cost control, or financial management. And then you can select 2 from the 15 elective competencies, making a total of 12 in your portfolio. Your evidence must relate to one project only, and this ensures that you are giving specific examples and not providing general statements of your approach. In the ChPP application guidance, you will see that each of the competencies has an associated set of professional practice indicators which are considered to be the evidence of your competence. To score maximum marks in the written assessment, each applicant has to show how they have demonstrated 4 of these professional practice indicators for each competence. In simple terms, these indicators state the things that a suitably competent person will have done, and in your portfolio, you have to state how you did them. Clearly demonstrating 4 indicators will gain you 2 marks for each competence. 2 to 3 indicators will gain you only 1 mark, and less than 2 indicators will gain no marks in this area. In order to be invited for interview, you must score a minimum of 20 marks out of a possible 24, with no competencies scoring less than 1. You have a maximum of 250 words per competence, and so each sentence should directly relate to a professional practice indicator. Any scene setting should be explained within your project overviews, and this will help you to keep the competent statements specifically focused on how you demonstrated this particular set of skills. You should extensively use the word I in completing these statements, even though it is often more natural to say we. Your assessor will be specifically looking for statements of what you personally have done. The interview. Should your application reach the prerequisite score of 20 marks with no single competence scoring 0, you will be invited to an interview. Depending on whether you applied using route 1, 2, or 3, your interview will be structured differently to exclude any recognised prior achievements. Route 3. The Route 3 interview is the most exhaustive approach as it doesn't allow any exemptions from the process, and you can expect this interview to last for 2 hours. Your interview panel will be formed of 2 assessors who will be different to the person who assessed your written portfolio. The assessors will seek to ensure, firstly, that you are who you say you are, and secondly, will ask questions to draw out evidence of your professional abilities and your broader technical knowledge. Put simply, they want to know both what you have done and what more you know. The assessors will have selected 6 competencies from your written portfolio to ask questions about. These can be randomly chosen, but will often focus on areas where you have scored less than the maximum marks and will aim to draw out additional evidence and add to your initial score. To be successful at interview requires a higher mark than the written assessment, and so some applicants may need to demonstrate additional evidence. For 4 of the competencies chosen, the assessors will ask you both professional practice and technical knowledge questions. And for 2 of the competencies, the assessors will ask only professional practice questions. When answering the professional practice questions, the assessors are expecting you to tell them in your own words how you achieved results in this area of competence for the specific project example that you've used in your written portfolio. They will be looking for extensive use of the word I, and they will be assessing you against the professional practice indicators and looking for evidence of 4 indicators to score maximum marks. When answering the technical knowledge questions, the assessors are expecting you to explain theoretically how you could have approached a hypothetical project problem. This demonstrates that you have a broader understanding of the methods and techniques that could be used and how you could adapt your approach to different circumstances. You should not refer specifically to the project in your portfolio and instead provide generic examples. For these questions, the assessors will use the technical knowledge indicators for each competence as their benchmark, and these can also be found in the application guidance. In order to be successful in a Route 3 interview, you must score at least 22 for the professional practice indicators with no single competence scoring less than 1, and a maximum 8 marks for the 4 technical knowledge indicators. Route 1. The Route 1 interview is a subset of the Route 3 interview process and only lasts for 1 hour. Your assessors will only ask you questions on professional practice in relation to your written portfolio, covering 6 of the competence areas. As you have already demonstrated, your technical competence there will be no broader technical questions. Route 2. The Route 2 interview is the shortest of the interviews and is conducted over the telephone and lasts only 30 minutes. As you've already been assessed as professionally and technically competent, this interview will focus on your commitment to ongoing development and how you keep your core competencies up to date. In all interviews, whether Route 1, 2 or 3, you will be asked questions around your approach to ethics and ethical behaviour, and you will also be given the opportunity to add any further evidence that you wish to offer in support of your application. Getting started. As you can see, the ChPP assessment process is both thorough and very structured. And providing you have the necessary experience and evidence, if you follow this guidance methodically, you should have no difficulty in being invited to interview. In subsequent videos, we will outline a detailed structure for writing your project overviews and preparing your evidence of competence. In the meantime, you can get started with the following activities. Firstly, choose the projects that you intend to include in your portfolio and ensure that your projects provide sufficient evidence to prepare 12 strong competence statements. Secondly, you will need to select which financial competence you are going to choose and similarly select your 2 elective competencies. Thirdly, make a plan to complete your portfolio within 3 months. In doing this, we recommend that you write your first project overview together with a single competence statement that refers to it and submit this to your CHPP coach for an initial formal review and feedback. This will ensure that your portfolio is progressing along the right lines before you do any further work. Next, you should break down the writing process into manageable chunks and set weekly targets for completion. It is often better to capture your ideas on paper as soon as you can and edit them later. You may also wish to identify a colleague to work with in order that you can generate ideas for each competence together and keep each other spurred on and motivated. Finally, stick to the plan. It is easy to find other things to do rather than starting work on your portfolio, but remember that it will be immensely satisfying to complete this work, and even better, to receive your CHPP certificate and PIN badge through the mail. So hopefully, this introductory video has given you plenty to consider and some ideas to get you started on planning your portfolios. Good luck in your initial preparations, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.